Welcome back to Why We Buy It, and today I want to talk about my absolute favorite watch in my collection. And those of you that follow the channel and have seen some of my previous watch videos will know that I only keep 6 watches in the watch box. That's it. I'm very strict about that. Occasionally it'll balloon up to 7, and that's because I found a watch I just absolutely had to have. And then I go through the process of figuring out which watch I'm going to sell or give away in order to get back down to 6, and I'll do a video on how I select which watch goes. But today I'm talking about my absolute favorite. And if you watched the previous video I did a video on the watch that's actually been in my watch box the longest, and that's the Casio Duro. And this shares some things in common with that. The first of which being they're both quartz. Now, before you change the channel and decide to look at something else watch related, because quartz really isn't your thing, I would advise you not to, because this isn't just any quartz. This watch takes it to another level, and it's worth checking out even if you are truly a mechanical watch fan. Stick around. The other thing that this watch shares in common with the Casio Duro is that it's actually made by Casio, but it's not your typical Casio. This is about as high-end as a Casio gets because it's part of their Oceanus line, and it's the T200. And what attracted me to this watch is something that you'll find across the Oceanus line, but you'll also find it in some other high-end watches that come out of Japan, and we'll get into that in this video. But today I want to talk about my absolute favorite watch in my collection, although not the most expensive watch, and not a mechanical one, but an impressive watch to say the least, the Casio Oceanus T200. So let's begin with what this watch is not, because I've heard this watch referred to as a hybrid watch, or in some cases even a smartwatch, and it's not that. It's not. It's a watch. Now, it has some features that you're not going to find on your average mechanical, but that doesn't make it any less a standard watch in my eyes, because as much as I consider a G-Shock a watch and not a smartwatch, or even the old 80s calculator watches as watches and not smartwatches, there were watches with a function. They were a tool watch, as much as a diver's watch is a tool watch, right? A chronograph is a tool watch. These are not smartwatches, and neither is this. But what makes this special is that they've integrated the modern technology into a standard watch to give you the abilities that very high complication mechanicals will have, but at a much more affordable price, right? This watch is less than $500. Yet it gives you the ability to have the time in practically anywhere you go in the world set for you. Unlike a GMT where you've got to set the specific time to a specific place and you're going to get your 2 time zones, what this gives you is the multiband 6 connectivity, which is a number of radio towers around the world that allows this watch to connect to them automatically and then set the time relative to where you're at that point. So it sets it for you. Doesn't matter where you travel in the world, it automatically connects. Now, there are a few places that are remote that don't have access to these radio towers, but that's okay because Casio designed an app that allows you to sync to your cell phone, and as long as you've got the app set to the local time zone, this will set to that as well. So essentially, it's a world timer without all the additional text, right? When you look at this watch, it looks like your typical 3-hander with a date, and that's it. Sure, there's a couple of additional bits of text on here that are specific to this watch and its functionality, but for the most part, when you look down at it, all you see is your, in this case, gorgeous looking 3-hander with a date display. But it is a world timer. On top of that, it's a perpetual calendar. Again, because it's got that multiband 6 connectivity, and because in case, or if you prefer it, you've got the Bluetooth connectivity, come February 28th, when it rolls over to March 1st, the date will roll over to March 1st. There's leap year, it's got you covered. It just keeps rolling. So once again, you're talking about a high horology complication that's simplified through technology, but it's not a smartwatch. It doesn't look anything like a smartwatch. I owned one smartwatch. I purchased the TicWatch C2. I had it for about a year, and then I had enough of it. and there were a few things about it that just put me off. First of which, depending on the face you picked, the particular dial you chose in the app, you could see it in certain types of light, but not others. So you were constantly changing the face depending on where you were going. Secondly, it didn't look right on my wrist. It had that smartwatch look. Even though I picked a round face and I picked the stainless steel version of the watch, it just didn't look like a regular watch, and it sat a little high. There was a lot of things about its aesthetic that didn't appeal to me. And of course, the one that burned me the most was the fact that you had to charge it constantly. So let's get into the quartz aspect of this particular watch. Now, it's the Tough Movement, Tough Solar by Casio that you'll find in their highest end G-Shocks, which means I'm not going to need to change a battery in this watch for 10 plus years. That's the first thing. Secondly, the solar charge will last in complete darkness for upwards of 5 to 6 months, right? So although this is my favorite watch and it's never had to sit around that long, if for some reason I decide to store it away for an extended period of time, I could come back a few months later, take it out of the watch case, throw it on, and it's going to automatically set to the current time and current date at that particular moment. Nuts. Absolutely crazy. This is not a watch you have to worry about recharging or switching batteries on a semi-regular basis. It's a set it and forget it. Casio quotes the time on this to plus minus 15 seconds a month, but let's be honest, if you have a multi-band 6 connectivity or you're using the Bluetooth function, you're essentially getting it bang on accurate every single day. So that's not even a factor. That plus 15 seconds is if you were isolated and had no access to a cell phone or Bluetooth connectivity and just let it run, maybe you're looking at plus or minus 15 seconds per month. So it's crazy accurate. It's as accurate as any watch can be. Another thing that really makes this stand out, and it's why I actually bought it, and I hinted at it when we first started the video, was that the polishing on this watch is next level, okay? When I'm wearing this watch and I walk into a jewelry store, a authorized watch dealer, and they've got the, ridiculous lighting in there, this watch shines unlike any other. It puts watches that are 10 times its price to shame when you're looking at the high polished surfaces. And Casio did a very good thing in the design in that they've alternated between high polish and brushing continuously on the case of this watch. And that still, the polish stands out that much more. And you can see here, even if I just move it around a little bit, you've got polishing on the side of the case, right? Chamfers. You've got a fair amount of polishing on the actual hour markers, and I'll get into that. But the level of polishing is the highest level of polishing you'll find in Japan, and it's called Zaratsu polishing. Now, for those of you that don't know what Zaratsu polishing is, it was kind of made famous in the world of timepieces by Grand Seiko. It's the level of polishing they use on their highest end dress pieces. And Grand Seiko is very well known for three things. First of which, of course, is their movements, right? The spring drive movement is probably the most advanced movement out there right now. But they're also known for their dials, of which they probably make the most impressive dials, period, amongst timepieces. But the last thing they're known for is their cases, and especially the polishing on their cases. And it's the Zaratsu polishing in Japan that gives them that high level of polish that just makes them pop. And Casio decided for their Oceanus line, they would do the same. They would put that high level of polishing on it, but only at a fraction of the price that you'd pay for a Grand Seiko. So that's what initially attracted me to this watch. And it still impresses me every single time I take it out of the box, and especially when you're outside and the sun catches this watch, it's show-stopping. It really is. But I grew to appreciate far more than the polishing of this particular watch. I love the fact that I can just throw it on and the time is bang on accurate. I love that. But when you look down at the dial the first thing that grabs you, of course, is the polishing, but then you look a little closer and the depth of this dial is incredible. The design of this watch, although simple, is layered in such a way that it adds additional depth that just sucks you in. And it begins right on the surface with the AR coating. They've got that intentional blue tint around the outside of the sapphire crystal. And that blue tint is kind of what you see at the top level. But then just below that, you get the polishing off the hands and the hour markers, which sit above the actual dial, because the hour markers are sort of floating because they're attached to the chapter ring, which is a step above the actual face. So everything has you looking into this dial. And then to even highlight that even more, they've taken the date display and made it appear almost a little bit sunken more than normal on your typical watch. So when you do look at the date, it's almost like you've got to look into the watch to see it. Now, if you had terrible eyes, maybe that's a negative, but my eyes are good enough, at least when I'm wearing my glasses, to really appreciate what they've done here. And all of those polished surfaces may distract you, but don't actually take away from the legibility of this watch. And again, if you follow my channel, you know that legibility is a big thing for me. Now, Casio Oceanus does make a number of models that are significantly more expensive than this, into the thousands of dollars, but they're far busier, right? They'll always have a number of additional complications available to you because they like to pack everything they can into some of these watches. And the colors they use are phenomenal on those models. If I was into a watch that was busy and maybe less legible, but more of a aesthetic masterpiece, then those would be the watches I'd purchase. But I like a watch to be legible. I like it to be purposeful. And that's what this watch is. Now let's get into some of the additional features that this watch has and why it might be the perfect sort of one watch collection for a lot of you. Because it's got 100 meters of water resistance, and that's sufficient for most people. The perpetual calendar, you really can't go wrong there. The world time, in case you travel as much as I do. And the Bluetooth connectivity for simplicity for those of you that are into the modern tech and don't want to have to spend all that time fiddling with a watch to get it to where you want it. And then speaking of getting it to where you want it, something you may not have noticed, but the Casio Oceanus T200 quartz movement hits the marker every single time. And if something were to happen to this watch, so, I jar it, I bang it against something, and for whatever reason, that second hand gets a little askew, it actually has a built-in function to allow it to be reset manually to center. So you never have to worry about it, even if for some reason you jarred this. So they really thought of absolutely everything when it comes to this particular watch. Now, I don't have it on the original bracelet. Generally speaking, I'm not really a bracelet guy. There's only one watch in my watch box where the bracelet to me is integral to that watch. And it's a bracelet that is kind of admired by many across the watch community, and I admired it myself, and it's one of the reasons I bought that particular watch. So that's the only watch in my watch box that's on a bracelet. The rest of them I put on straps. And this one I've tried a number of straps on. This is my personal favorite, but if you put this on, say, a dark brown leather strap, it looks very dressy because of that high polish. If you put this on a rally strap, it looks extremely sporty. This watch can be matched to a number of different situations, and it looks fantastic with a t-shirt or with a tux. So if you're looking for the best one watch collection you can have, this should be on your list of potential watches to get. Okay, let's get a few measurements. We'll start with the case. got a 41.9 millimeter case, so basically 42 millimeters. We'll get our lug to lug. .1, so 49 millimeter lug to lug. Now we'll get case height. .8 millimeters, so just under 11 millimeters. And it's got a 20 millimeter strap. So pretty standard sizing, really. This will fit a number of wrists quite comfortably. And on this particular strap, which is a Benchmark basic strap by Amazon, sailcloth, the match is perfect, right? It matches that sort of blue tinge to the sapphire glass, the AR coating. Almost bang on. Everyone loves this strap combination, and Benchmark's basic straps are relatively inexpensive. So if you're looking to pair a strap with a T200, I would highly recommend this. And I've had this strap for over a year and it's held up quite well. And I wear this watch quite often, including in water. So you can't really go wrong with Benchmark's basics. Let's move on. So thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, like 99% of you haven't, please subscribe and support the channel, especially if you're a watch enthusiast like me. I have a lot more content coming. And I get it. We're a brand new channel. We only rebranded in May, so it might take a few of you some additional videos before you're fully on board. But I do have some stuff planned that I don't want you to miss. We travel a lot. In fact, we're going to Sweden in September, and I plan on visiting a couple of micro brands while I'm there. And it's something I really want to do on this channel specifically, like I did with Wise. Went to Thailand, visited them there, purchased a watch. Maybe I'll purchase a watch while I'm in Sweden. Really depends how much they impress me and whether or not they find something that can actually fit my collection that hasn't got a solid sold up spot already, right? But I want to take you along because seeing promotional pictures on a website isn't the same as having someone go and see the watches for themselves with their eyes up close on wrist, giving you a real idea of what's being offered there. And are there marketing packages the same as what you see when it's right in front of you? And I want to also give them a chance to kind of tell their story on a more personal level as opposed to just the About Us blurb on a website. And I want to bring you guys with me because maybe you'll see something you like as well and have a reason to order from some of these smaller micro brands that will only not just help them out, but it helps me out as well because I'm providing the information that you want to hear. So subscribe. At least click the notification bell if you're interested. And hopefully we see you again on Why We Buy It. Till next time.